seems to be the stronger issue. So I would not disagree with her on that at all. But I believe if you look at the New York 26th congressional race, very clearly Medicare was the issue that won that race for the Democrat. And if you look at the demographics in New York's 26th, they were approximately the same Republican to Democrat ratio that we have here in Western Maryland's 6th. So in any political race, both challengers are going to try to differentiate themselves and build a strategy based on what they believe is the best weapon to use. And in this particular case, Roscoe Bartlett, having co-sponsored and voted for the budget plan by Paul Ryan, I think sets him up for failure.
And to further speculate, and then
sure.
I know we have another caller, Craig, who's on the line. We'll be right with you in a moment. The immigration issue. Mm-hmm. This is something that you mentioned, Sheriff Jenkins.
Right.
He has done a great bit of work regarding immigration in Frederick County, 287G, ICE. Many people, of course, know all about that. On that point, on that issue, Patrick, do you think that Sheriff Jenkins, were he to run, again, we're just speculating, just punditry here,
right.
Would he have an advantage over Congressman Bartlett on the immigration issue for a caller like Sue and her colleagues? Or do you think that Congressman Bartlett has done a strong enough job on that issue to satisfy Sue and her colleagues and the Republicans?
I don't sense that the congressman has done enough on that issue. Now, he's got an opportunity with 10 months to go to try to do something about it to catch up. I think that's one of the strengths that will differentiate Sheriff Jenkins from Roscoe Bartlett. I think that's a strong issue that the sheriff could run on and gain a lot of traction. But he can't be a one-trick pony. He's going to have to come up with something more than 287G to differentiate himself from the congressman, which means he's going to have to put up his position on Medicare, social entitlement programs, and other issues, jobs, economy, those kinds of things, so that he can clearly show his constituents that he's trying to gain. I think one of the other issues for Sheriff Jenkins is he's very well known in Frederick County, and there seems to be a strong following for him here. What he's going to have to work on is how does he get name recognition going west. We have a Democratic sheriff over in Washington, Doug Mullendore, who is well respected on both sides of the aisle, and that's kind of a roadblock that Jenkins is going to have to get through in order to get into Washington and get past there into Allegheny and Garrett to get his message out.
So just wrap up, and then we'll go to our next caller. On if there were a debate in a primary for that race, and if Sheriff Jenkins ran was one of the people on that stage at the podium, he would give Congressman Bartlett a run for his money on the immigration issue. He may win that battle. He may. But you're suggesting that so long as that's not his only issue and there are other things, he may not win the war against Congressman Bartlett. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. Yeah. That's correct. Because I think in this cycle, as in almost any cycle, if you're a one-trick pony candidate, you're just not going to survive the primary against your challengers. So each one of these, Christoforski, Rippion, Jenkins, if he gets in it, and even the congressman himself, is going to have to show up with multiple reasons why they are different from the other challengers and why they should be representing their party in the general.
Great. Well, we're going to take our next caller. Craig, thank you for staying on the line. Craig, good morning. How are you?
Great. When you were talking about all the Frederick events earlier, you left out a biggie, the motorcycle race at the fairgrounds, the Barbara Fritchie Classic, has been going on since 1922. And that's going to be at the fairgrounds all day long from about 10 to 5. The big race is at 3 p.m.
Craig, thank you for that information. Certainly apologize, did not mean to exclude that from this morning's discussion. So I appreciate you bringing that up this morning. Thank you.
But you know what, Mike? I think Craig, that's a great addition. I think what you should do is put Michael Katanik on the back of one of those motorcycles.
No, I've never been on a motorcycle. So.
There you go.
That may be that.
Break in a world-class motorcycle race.
Well. If Michael's wife can work this out with you, Craig, can we get him on a motorcycle? Because that'll pay him back for that whole anniversary card fiasco.
Absolutely. Richard Riley runs that, and he used to work, I think, for the radio station there.
Oh, that's great. Well, Craig, thank you so much. Certainly we'll talk to my wife about it. What we're going to do now is take a short break so that we can pay the bills here. I'm with my guest, Patrick Allen of West695, and you are listening to Frederick's Forum with your host today, Michael Kurtianek. Okay, welcome back to WFMD's Frederick Forum with Patty Brown. I'm your host today, Michael Kurtianek. The phone lines have really lit up, so we're just going to go right to them. First off, Bob, you're on the line. Go for it.
Hey, Mike, good job today.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, one thing you guys aren't figuring in yet, and it's going to happen this fall, I guess, is the gerrymandering the Democrats in Annapolis are going to do with the, the political boundaries. I imagine they're losing sleep because there's still two Republicans sitting in Congress, with Andy Harris and Roscoe Bartlett, and I'm sure they're going to want to get rid of one of those by maneuvering the boundaries so that one of them makes it a lot more difficult to elect. And that's probably the big, unmentioned thing in there. It's not going to matter who you post. They're going to probably try to cut one, if not both of those congressional districts back, and I see that as a big negative.
Hey, Bob, this is Patrick. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Listen, that was a great analysis you just put up. Out of those two districts, which would be the first that Andy Harris is in right now, and the sixth that Congressman Bartlett is in,
right?
Which one of those two do you want to see go?
I don't want to see either one of them go. I believe in a two-party system. Or a three-party system. I think what we got in Maryland right now stinks to high heaven, at least at the state level, where you got one party that totally dominates everything. That's never a good thing, in my opinion, and I don't think it's a good thing in Congress either. I think if I had to make a pick, I would say they probably hate Andy Harris a little more than they hate Roscoe, but you never know what they're going to do when they sit down and draw the lines.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. Thank you so much. Appreciate the input. Next caller, we actually have two callers on the line. I'm going to first, one of them is a special guest. It is not the next person. Farrell, you're on the line.
I'm a special guest.
Yes, you are. Farrell, can't wait for you to hear.
I'll get this as quick as I can.
Thanks.
The self-described Captain Q-Ball there keeps slamming the Ryan plan. What is it Obama has in store for Medicaid, Medicare? He's going to cut it a lot faster and a lot deeper than the Ryan plan does.
Patrick, your response.
Well, my first response is that if the Democrats had started out with single-payer system, they could have negotiated down to a public option instead of going in with public option and then giving away the store and getting nothing out of it. So we've got a fundamental law in place, and I think now that the legislation is on the table and it is established law, the next step is to go in there on both sides and say, okay, where do we make the improvements that have to be made to this legislation? So it's not a matter of just throwing out the bathwater and all that kind of stuff. You got to start somewhere with something.
Yeah, but established law means there aren't any judgments against it, and there are. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case either.
Well, with almost any new and controversial piece of legislation, you're going to have to test it in the courts. Well, I mean, it's going to be tested in the courts. The courts will decide. But I think at the end of the day, what you do is you take the legislation that's on the table and you sit down and you work in a bipartisan way to say, okay, how do we make this better? And I don't mean better for the special interests so that the insurance companies make more profit. I'm talking about making it better for you and me, the people that walk the streets of America and need health care.
Well, I know you have an important guest coming up, so I'm not going to belabor this, but Obama cuts it in tremendously, much faster, and gives no options. The Ryan plan at least sits at the table as an adult and says we're going to have to figure out when to stop this in 55 a year. Thank you,
Farrell. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the call. For our final caller of the day, we have Congressman Roscoe Bartlett, who's calling in. Good morning, Congressman. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Patrick, how are you?
I'm good, Congressman. It's good to hear from you.
Okay, yeah, I thought I probably ought to call in. I haven't had a chance to listen to the show, but somebody called me who was listening to it. Said you were giving two reasons why I shouldn't be reelected. One was the F-136 engine. I would just like to know this, that the GAO said that it would probably cost less to have competition. There has never been a competition. To give this engine to just one manufacturer is the equivalent of a $100 billion earmark. Competition always makes things better, makes things cheaper. The great engine war for the F-16 years ago demonstrated that. Congress, until this last time, for many years now, has been very supportive of the second engine because it's the right thing to do. It will reduce costs. Ultimately, we'll have 95% of all of our fighter planes with one engine. If there was a problem with that engine, 95% of our planes would be down. That's totally unacceptable. The second reason I understand you gave I shouldn't be reelected was I voted for the Ryan budget. You know, I almost voted against that budget because it didn't cut enough. Our deficit this year is going to be $1.4 trillion. That's several $100 billion more than all the money we vote to spend. The Ryan budget doesn't close. It doesn't balance for 25 years, accumulating huge additional debt. And even then, it balances only if you make what I think are unrealistic assumptions about economic growth in our country. The world, unfortunately, is up against a ceiling of 84 million barrels of oil a day. I don't think there's going to be any robust recovery anywhere until we do something serious about energy. We have not done anything serious about energy. I'd just like to note that I'm one of only 17 people in the Congress that has voted against all of these silly giveaway bail-them-out programs.
Congressman, this is Patrick. Let me just respond to both of those points, specifically the engine and the Ryan plan issue. First of all, having come out of the military and gone through the procurement system for F-14s back in the 70s, I can tell you very clearly that the current engine that's in the Joint Strike Fighter has had thousands and thousands of engineering and quality assurance testing behind it. There are no failures in that.
Patrick,
Congressman,
I'm very familiar with that. I chair the subcommittee that does that. That engine is more than 2 years behind schedule. The F-136 engine is far less behind schedule. If they had started at the same time, the F-136 engine would now be ahead of the F-135 engine. You know, don't tell me about those engines. I live and breathe this. I'm on the chairman of that subcommittee. Go on to the next subject, please.
Okay, Congressman. We don't have a lot of time here, so they're giving me the sign.
Yeah, we'll say, Congressman Bartlett,
can the F-135, 136 engine? I'm the subcommittee chair of that committee. I know all about it for a long time now.
Great.
Go on to the next issue.
Next issue is, can you confirm that you did file on Thursday to retain your incumbency as Congressman?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I made that announcement a long time ago. I didn't know that you could file because ordinarily filing's not until about July, and we don't even know what the districts are going to look like. I was kind of surprised that it was open. So as soon as we learned it was open, we went down and filed, yes.
Yeah, but I would argue, Congressman, that as an incumbent, you shouldn't worry about what the new district lines are. You're still the incumbent running for the 6th district, regardless of how the lines are drawn.
You're exactly correct. I'm going to be the incumbent running for the 6th district. Whatever district Garrett County is in, that's the district I'm running in.
Well, Congressman Bartlett, thank you so much for calling in to the radio show. Appreciate you listening in, and have a wonderful 4th of July weekend.
Oh, thank you very much.
And with that, we'll leave you. It was just great fun. Patrick Allen, thank you so much for being here. Everybody have a happy and safe 4th of July weekend. Celebrate Frederick. This is Michael Kurtianek, your host today for Frederick's Forum. See you next Saturday.